I bet you already know what a submachine gun, light machine gun, and heavy machine gun are. But have you ever heard of a lightweight medium machine gun? It's basically a brand new category of weapon that Special Forces is trying to create. It fires the .338 Norma Magnum round. It's been described as having the firepower of a heavy .50 caliber machine gun, except in a package small enough to fit in a soldier's rucksack. The Ohio Ordnance Reaper was finally unveiled this year at SHOT Show 2024 after 2 years of anticipation. That caliber packs a serious punch, since the LWMMG fires at approximately 6,500 joules of energy, while the .50 cal hits about 18,000 joules, or 3 times the power. But the real takeaway here is that the LWMMG has twice the energy compared to the M240, with its 3,400 joules. So why are US Special Forces switching to the .338? What are some of the challenges in creating such a weapon? And what kind of new tactics will it allow for?
But first, I want to talk about data, like the personal data that's bought and sold online by corporations that collect huge amounts of personally identifiable information. These data brokers crawl the web, finding your personal information from government forums, social media sites, and even phone apps that sell your information to third parties, often without your knowledge or consent. Your name, political preferences, home and email address, and even GPS location can end up in the wrong hands, making you susceptible to scams or blackmail. In the case of military members and veterans, data exposure could even pose a risk to national security. If you want to protect your online information from falling into the wrong hands, check out Delete Me. Delete Me is an easy-to-use subscription service that prevents your personal information from being sold online by literally removing it. Delete Me's privacy experts find, track, and remove your data on a regular basis and keep you posted with ongoing reports. Delete Me found over 167 pieces of personal data on me and successfully removed my information from 71 sites. You can get 20% off Delete Me US consumer plans when you go to join deleteme.com/purpose20 with custom promo code purpose20 at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/purpose20, code purpose20.
Originally developed for long-range sports shooting, the .338 has been gathering a lot of interest lately as a machine gun round in the military community, with both Sig Sauer and General Dynamics introducing designs that make use of the .338. It's basically a competition to become the future machine gun for America's special operators. The military first took notice of the round's potential in machine guns when General Dynamics unveiled their lightweight medium machine gun concept back in 2012. They've now been moved over to True Velocity. SOCOM and the Marine Corps posted a sources sought solicitation in 2017 for 5,000 example machine guns chambered in that .338 to research the concept and investigate its potential. The following year, in 2018, SIG responded with the MG338 along with their hybrid ammo, and for a while things seemed to be going SIG's way. SOCOM accepted and safety certified the MG338 in 2020, leading to the Army and MARSOC and the Marines to start looking into SIG's offering as a potential replacement for the M240 in general service. A lot of folks thought this meant that SIG had already won the contract, but the initial deliveries of the MG338 were still just for testing and evaluation purposes. Now, you might be familiar with the XM7 rifle replacing the M4 in the Army. That contract does appear to be going to SIG, but this is a different, separate bid. SOCOM held a virtual industry day in February 2021, where they released the designer specs and requirements for what they now called the lightweight machine gun medium. The most interesting thing we learned from this public requirements document that was released was the reason for creating this new firearm, according to the DoD, is because of the 2018 National Defense Strategy Study that revealed there was a gap between US forces and adversaries relating to conventional and unconventional weapons, which is kind of a diplomatic way of saying, we got played. I believe that study is classified, but we know from rumors and soldiers' personal stories that the M240 and 249 didn't have the max range and accuracy needed to engage targets that are far away on high altitude mountains, leaving you essentially with your in your hand. With a weapon like the Reaper in each team's arsenal, US machine gunners will be able to engage enemy troops from well beyond the range of their own medium machine guns. The military calls this principle overmatch, and it keeps American troops safer. At the same time, it allows them to effectively lock down a wider radius around their position. Along with the project requirements, the Industry Day announced a future $50 million contract that was on the line, opening up the competition to the wider firearms industry. That's when Ohio Ordnance first realized they had a shot at bringing their own design to the market and teased the introduction of the Reaper at SHOT Show 2022. With the gun now in completed form, OOW is sending out the Reaper for testing to interested government agencies before full production begins in April 2024. I don't know about you, but the first thing that jumps out to me when I see this weapon is this thing needs a sandwich. It looks like a straight up skeleton. Going off the pure aesthetics alone, it looks more like a sniper rifle than a chonky belt-fed machine gun. But that's the reason why it's able to weigh so little. But the thing that makes me unironically the hardest about this weapon is the entire system breaks down to be actually small enough to fit into a soldier's rucksack for your modern, on-the-go, mobile operator lifestyle. In all seriousness, the breakdown capability is sick. It reportedly takes less than 10 seconds to break it down into its 3 main components. Could actually see where this would be practically useful. For an example, if you're going out to an observation outpost where you're going to be conducting overwatch with the machine gun, but during that 5-mile ruck march out to that OP, you don't expect to need to use the weapon, so this way you're able to easily transport it and use your rifle. Transporting machine guns in vehicles can be a pain also. When you're not expecting to use them, it's nice to be able to collapse the thing. The only downside I can imagine is if this thing ever gets in the hands of your average infantryman, I promise you, I will find a way to lose those pieces. The entire platoon will be searching for a barrel until 4 in the morning. It's team building, huh? The LMG Medium project is to bridge the range and capability gap between existing 7.62mm machine guns and the legendary 50 caliber M2. The 50 cal is accurate, long range, and hard hitting. It can take out vehicles, for instance, but it needs to be mounted on either a vehicle or tripod mount to be useful. And that's a heavy beast at 86 pounds. You need 2 people to carry it, even before factoring in the weight of the tripod and the ammunition. Now, Special Forces soldiers frequently conduct long, dismounted foot patrols far away from vehicles, and this means they often have to leave the heavy firepower of the 50 cal behind when they do so. Should special operators bring the 50 cal along anyway, there's only so much that each soldier can carry, and the extra weight of the M2 and everything needed to keep it running reduces the team's capacity to carry other mission essential equipment like explosives, surveillance, and comms equipment, or spare ammo for a Carl Gustaf recoilless rifle. American soldiers have long relied on the 7.62mm NATO machine guns like the M240 to give them the automatic firepower they need in a more portable package. But when these have much shorter range than the 50 cal and they can't engage vehicle targets as effectively, as stated earlier, the effective range of the M240 is only around 800 meters, but the 50 cal can reach out to 2,000 meters or more. SOCOM believes the 338 Norma Magnum cartridge unlocks new potential for operators to carry a gun that's as portable as an M240, but has nearly the same range and punch as a 50 cal. One way you can tell if a weapon has officially become canon in the military world is whether or not there's a Call of Duty gun named after it. So when you're wielding the RAAL in-game, that's what this is. And when it comes to punchiness, a typical 7.62mm machine gun fires a bullet weighing about 147 grains at 2,800 feet per second. By contrast, the Reaper lightweight medium machine gun fires a 300 grain projectile at nearly the same speed, 2,700 feet per second to be precise. That translates to over 50% more kinetic energy delivered per bullet, shredding body armor and engine blocks even at extended ranges.
I know I said kinetic is the most overused buzzword in the military, and I still stand by that, but sometimes it does have its uses.
Ohio Ordnance Works might not be an instantly recognizable name in the military world like SIG or General Dynamics, but they've been building firearms since the early 1990s. Based just outside Cleveland, Ohio, Ohio Ordnance is a pretty small company by defense industry standards with just around 115 employees and 105,000 square foot factory floor. Now, Reaper stands for Recoil Enhanced Automatic Precision Rifle, which is a bit of a stretch as far as acronyms go, but it captures the emerging niche of machine guns that the US military is searching for. My only concern would be, how does it handle the heat buildup in the weapon after you've been firing it for sustained long periods of time? It's possible they found a way to dissipate the heat through the weapon. I've seen it done before. The Reaper's maximum range is an incredible 6,700 meters, although its effective range is more likely to be around 1,700 meters, without a dedicated mount, that is. That's still more than twice the effective range of the 800 meters for existing 7.62 machine guns, like the M240. The Reaper also weighs only 26.8 pounds, making it almost a pound lighter than the M240 Bravo. The weapon can fire as fast as 650 rounds per minute on full auto, but it includes a fire selector switch that allows the user to shoot in the semi-auto mode when more accurate single shots are needed. A feature that the M240 and many other traditional machine guns don't have, believe it or not. At 54.5 inches in overall length, the Reaper is definitely a long boy, but Ohio Ordnance included a folding stock that brings the gun down to a much more manageable 44.25 inches. The optics rail is machined into the actual receiver of the gun instead of being part of the hinged top cover like on the older designs. This creates a much more rigid mounting point for the optic that translates to better, more reliable zeros. And they created a whole new patented sliding feed tray that can swing out the pass to the edge of the gun for reloading. This not only allows better access for the feeding tray, but also allows for bigger optics to be mounted anywhere along the rail. Without the constraint of working around a hinged feed cover, the Reaper solves an issue that soldiers have just been living with for a long time, allowing for much larger sights like the next generation thermal imagers to be installed on the Reaper right out of the box. The whole ammunition assembly can also be switched between right or left-hand feed while in the field, thanks to the weapon's toolless disassembly procedure. To learn more about the history and specifics of the ammo though, Small Arms Defense Journal J. Bell wrote a great article that I recommend you check out. There's also more rail real estate forward of the sliding feed cover and the M-LOK attachment points, along the sides of the fore end of the lights, lasers, and other accessories, and the muzzle is threaded to accept suppressors, which is something that you couldn't really do with the M240. An interesting note about the Reaper is its rolling, locking, recoil-operated action. This means the gun actually shares its design lineage with the MG42 of World War II and the Cold War era MG3, both machine guns famous for their reliability and their insanely fast rates of fire. Ohio Ordnance went with the roller locking design for its simplicity. The gun has only 207 parts, which is about a 30% less than the M240 or the 50 caliber M2. But there's more to adopting a new platform than just performance and ergonomics. US Special Forces teams deploy worldwide and often with little to no resupply for weeks, and soldiers need to be able to keep the weapon fed with ammo. Ohio Ordnance has kept the Reaper's design simple and straightforward, foregoing the usual hydraulic buffer and opting for a mechanical one to avoid the fluid issues that extreme temperatures can cause. Even the best designed weapons will wear out parts though. The OOW's fully toolless design is a boon to Special Forces teams when they don't have to send their gun to an armorer when something eventually does break. As long as the receiver itself doesn't break, everything can be replaced in the field. Ammunition availability is in big question though. .338 Norma Magnum isn't a common caliber in the US military, and it's practically non-existent throughout the rest of the world. It takes time to produce stockpiles of new ammo types and ship them out to depots and magazines. So the issue is how much the military will commit to producing the .338 Norma ammo. The Reaper comes with a 7.62 NATO conversion kit, with the ability to quickly change calibers between the .338 and the 7.62, to either make use of available ammo or to keep training cheap and easy. Again, all without tools or armor level qualifications, so you don't have to go all the way back to headquarters to get this swapped out. But that's one more thing that operators have to carry during extended deployments, and the team lose their range advantage if forced to switch to the smaller caliber. Stockpiling and shipping enough .338 ammo is a broader strategic consideration that could hinder the Reaper's performance in the field if there's not enough to go around. That's likely why SOCOM is heading up the LMG Medium project in the first place, and not Big Army or Big Navy. SOCOM is a much smaller collection of service branches with separate funding and acquisition pipelines. The whole point of establishing SOCOM in the late 1980s was to create a more nimble command and logistics chain. Compared to the existing entries for SIG and General Dynamics, the Reaper is a couple of pounds heavier, but the roller locking design keeps it much simpler and a more narrow profile. And with the ultra high pressures generated by that .338 Norma Mag, recoil operation avoids the potential headaches of bent operating rods and clogged regulator valves that gas-operated guns have to design around. In June of 2022, the Department of Defense awarded a $157 million contract to SIG's New Hampshire plant to produce 4.5 million rounds, including the M1162 armor-piercing ammo in 338 Norma Mag. But production isn't expected to be completed until 2027. As the LMG medium program continues, the other branches hope it will highlight the advantages and disadvantages of the 338 caliber for their own purposes, and identify any bottlenecks in the supply chain that need to be addressed before they do. On similar note, Ohio Ordnance needs to be able to ramp up production of the gun quickly if it gets chosen. OOW has been expanding at a record pace in the past few years, but they're still a tiny company compared to the industrial giants that they're up against. It takes time to purchase and establish the CNC machines, material supply chains, quality control lines, and everything else needed to produce combat-worthy guns at the rate needed to meet contract deadlines. That means a lot of investment on the side of Ohio Ordnance, on top of all the research and development that they've spent developing the Reaper in the first place. And they also need to produce enough spare parts, conversion kits, and extra barrels to ship out and support the completed guns. Defense production is a whole science to itself, and plenty of companies have gone bankrupt when they got the balancing act wrong and overextended. And the Pentagon is no stranger to denying contracts to companies that they don't feel can meet production targets fast enough, even when they offer superior products. If SOCOM likes what they see in the Reaper, it could put Ohio Ordnance on the radar of a whole host of other government agencies and military branches. But if the contract doesn't go through, the folks in Cleveland could just as easily be left holding their hat after investing millions into a new production line. Now that Ohio Ordnance's baby is leaving the nest for the first time, we'll see how wide it can spread its wings during the rigorous tests SOCOM has lined up during the LMG medium competitions. There's one place that could really use the MG338, and that's Djibouti. Did you know that the Chinese and American military bases there are only 10 kilometers apart? So if you had this weapon, you could basically fire it straight at the other base. I'm not saying they should do that. Don't do that. You can learn more about Djibouti and the military bases there by checking out this video in the corner of the screen, or the link in the description, or typing in Djibouti task and purpose.